Hi guys, it's Kelly here, and I am back with another video today. We are going to be using a new die set. This is from Spellbinders and Nichol Spohr. If you are not familiar with her, she is a just wonderfully talented card maker who's been in the industry for years, and I'm super excited for her that she's getting into designing her own items. Yeah, if you have not watched any of her videos, she's super inspirational. I would suggest that you check her out. This is obviously a little bit different for me because typically I do one layer stamped cards, but that doesn't mean that breaking out of your comfort zone and doing something different isn't sometimes fun. So this particular die set is called Wagon Full of Fall, and the premise behind it is you can build your own wagon and then all of your little accessories to go inside of it. Apples and pumpkins and flowers and gourds, and it's just super cute. It's adorable. So what I'm doing here is I like to save myself the copic ink and chasing around all my little dies. I trace out all my little parts so I know what color I like, where I want to go where, and then so that it's fully covered, and then I do my backgrounds in distress inks. This just works for me, and you can do this to color your dies without adding any additional color to them. This will work just fine. When you go over them with the distress inks, it is going to erase your pencil, but that's okay. As long as the entire area is covered, then your entire die will be colored. So while we watch me do that, which by the way is very sped up because there was so much going on in this card, I do just want to note, as far as Spellbinders goes, they are also having their autumn warehouse sale right now, which is amazing. They have deals from $1 upwards of $10. They have whole like stamp sets for $3. They have whole dies, like nested dies, for like $10. It's such a good sale. So I will also link that below so you can head over and check that out. There's lots of, tools and embellishments, stamps, dies. They just have everything included in this sale, which is wonderful. So here for this other paper, the reason I didn't trace anything out is because I have so many leaves and pumpkins and apples and things like that I'm going to be cutting out, that I knew as long as I did a blend of autumn colors, I would be able to find a space to put my dies that would make sense. And so I'm doing some yellows, some oranges, some greens, and then some red and even some purple. I love seedless preserves for fall. I just think it's a super pretty fall color, and you'll probably see me start using it a lot more that we're getting closer to autumn. I have a couple of Halloween stamps that I had recently purchased that I cannot wait to use. I just have not found the time yet. We have been just a little bit busy. Just a little busy. It's no big deal, But here, now that all my distress inking is done, I'm going to go ahead and start putting on my dies and just taping them down so that they stay where I want them to stay. And then for the like pumpkins, leaves, and stuff, I just ran those through multiple times at different places on the paper so that I could get different color blends for my leaves and for my flowers and things like that. Again, like I said earlier, you could totally just use this as your form of a coloring medium and be totally fine. That it will get your pieces, parts all colored up, and they'll still be super pretty. I have a problem. I can admit it. I have a problem where I very much like adding dimension to things. And so after I do all of my die cutting, I am going to add some additional shading with my copic markers. So included in this little set is a little label that you can put on your wagon. That's what I'm working on here, and I've cut it out in white, and then I'm just adding a little bit of shading to the edges with some hickory smoke, and I didn't even dip it back into my ink pad. I just used whatever I had left over on my foam to add that, just so it wouldn't be just stark white. And then you can see we're going to get right into the copic coloring and then just adding a little bit of dimension with the markers. You'll see kind of each individual pieces part as we go through them, and you'll be able to see the difference that adding the copic coloring makes. But again, it's not necessary. And a lot of it, like, because of the way you build it up, a lot of it probably isn't even seen, especially on the things inside the wagon. So you can just kind of pick and choose what you deem what you deem necessary to spend your time on. I have a real issue with leaving things half done. Like, even if I'm doing a card scene or whatever, and like this portion of it isn't going to be seen, I still feel the need to color it. I don't know what that's called or why that happens, but I can't just leave it unfinished. So, speaking of leaving things just generally unfinished, so in my personal life, in my regular everyday life, my poor husband is just getting absolutely like, when you own two businesses and you both work full time, and he works a job where he picks up overtime and picks up side jobs. Like, we're very busy people. Recently we did I did the craft roulette, and that was a couple of weeks ago now. When I did that, and like she was trying to set up, you have to do like a pre filming, because like you have a get together like the day of to make sure all the technology is set up correctly, but then you have to have one before that. Like, when we were trying to set that up, I was like explaining to her, like, I'm working 12 hours, I have to pick up Peanut from school, and then I have to take him to swim, and then he goes to his dad's house and I go to work. Like, there isn't a minute spared. So then, being pregnant, obviously, and we are at this point just over 8 months pregnant, so we're getting down to it. I'm getting much bigger and much more uncomfortable, which means that I can do less. Not that I was really, I'm going to be honest with y'all, not that I've been really doing anything this entire pregnancy, because I'm tired. I'm just tired. So the normal level of things that I would be accomplishing is probably cut in half. Like, not that I shouldn't say I'm doing nothing. Like, I'm still, picking my kid up from school and doing homework with him, and, periodically cleaning the house and doing, making dinner and going to work. Like, I'm still doing the regular everyday things, but like my extras that are just kind of built into my life at this point have all fallen to Eric. He has had to pick up all of that slack because those things still need to get done. I.e. any of the extra cleaning. Like, it's very challenging for me to clean a shower because I can't bend over to like scrub the tub or the bottom of like our walk-in shower. So like those things fall to him. Here, there is a stamp set from Spellbinders, and I will link to it, that's super cute for fall, but I did not have it. So I found some kind of stamp sets around that I already had to use for my sentiment for this. But I will link to theirs in case you're interested in seeing the one that Nicole designed to go with her sets. For my white pumpkins, I just went with like a little like tannish cream color because I thought that was super pretty, just so that they would have a little bit of something and it would break up the gray. I didn't want them to blend into the wagon because my wagon has like a gray metal frame. But anywho, so my poor husband has just been working himself to death. I mean, just all of the things. And, he's still doing the childcare. He's still doing the things in the garage because I haven't done anything out in the garage in probably like 2 or 3 months. like little things here and there, but it's very challenging for me to be out there. Um, so I can only do the things that maybe take 20 minutes and then I can come back inside. So anyway, um, he has been doing this. One of the things that we're on our last project now before like we cut ourselves off. Like this is the last thing that we scheduled this year. This was before we even knew that we were going to be having in addition to our family having an extra baby. We are now on that last project. Well, I should say he is. I'm not. Which is painting this bedroom set. But we had a table that was scheduled before that. And it is an older pine table. It's a very soft wood that's been in her family for generations. So I believe she said it was her grandmother's table. So like this is the table her dad grew up with. And now it is hers. And it's a beautiful table, but it's a very primitive style table. Which is fine. That is beautiful. And depending upon what kind of look you're going for in your household, still, can fit a very modern home. It just depends on what kind of vibe you're going for. So the kind of vibe she's going for is that she wanted it stained black, which is fine. It's no problem. So, you gotta strip it, sand it, fix any boo-boos, and it did have it's an old table. It had a lot of little boo-boos, a lot of scratches and nicks, and there's some, that were like holes in there that you can't really fix unless you put wood filler in there. And so sometimes you just have to kind of embrace the character that the table has. But nonetheless, it is a large table and it has 2 leaves with it. Eric did this whole table himself. I did not touch the table whatsoever. And so he's been working on it, and finally, there's always, guys, it doesn't matter if you're card making or furniture making or knitting or cross stitching, or like if you're making something, there's always going to be a snag or a complication. And, sometimes you get lucky and it's a small one and you can just fix it super easy and get over it. And then sometimes it takes a while. Like I remember there was a cross stitch that I did. This was years ago now. I did it for my parents' anniversary. That was their anniversary gift. And it was like it had their names and their dates in the middle. Their date. I don't know, I mean, wedding anniversaries, I think they have. But so it has that in the middle, and then around it had like a trellis with like roses and other flowers in it. And that trellis, I pulled out and restitched that trellis 3 times because I could not get it to line up. And so you just have to be tenacious and you just have to stick with it. And that happens sometimes, as we've talked about, different tables and things that we've refinished. Like that one, I had to redo the top of it 5 times. That little checkerboard one, which was the devil. It was the devil. Yes, it was. Never doing another one of those again. But so things like that. Well, typically those things are in my arena because I'm the finisher. I'm the closer, if you will. The top coat, the stain top coat things typically fall to me. Those are things that are maybe more in my wheelhouse than in Eric's. So this time, because I cannot do it, he had to do it. And he did a wonderful job, and the table came out beautiful. And we brought it into the house, and I staged it, and we took photos, which, if you're ever curious to see, is our tailor-made home restored on Instagram and Facebook, if you're interested in seeing the things that we make. Let me go back to the card real quick. So here I wanted to kind of set the scene, and I'm using a Spellbinders die here to cut out some masking paper and keep both parts. You'll need both parts. So I'm going to use these to create this big moon in the background of my night scene here. So I'm just going to put that down. I'm going to give myself some ground, a blue sky, and then you'll see we'll go from there. So, anywho, so now all of these things have kind of fallen to Eric. Brings it in, stages it. I take my pictures, and we're set up to deliver it yesterday. And he's going to take the table apart. And because it is an older table and the screws are older, and we did buy replacement screws, but we didn't, like, we probably had I think we did end up purchasing enough to replace all of them. But at the time we were putting it together for the photos, we just had the originals. But needless to say, one of the screws stripped and then proceeded to, well, okay, so it's stripped. And if you don't know what that means, happens more commonly, I think, with Phillips head. So the ones that look like the X's. Eric was trying to pull the screw back out and it just ate the metal on top of the screw. And so then you can't get a drill bit in there because it's just this big gaping hole. So he gets a pair of pliers and tries to turn it by hand, by the nail head, or screw head, and then it breaks off. So now you just have like the shaft of it stuck in the wood. So after trying a couple of different things, we try to, we're trying basically not to make it a huge, gigantic hole. This was in one of the table legs, by the way, which is not a traditional table leg. It's, like I said, it's a very primitive table. So the leg is solid wood at the top and then comes down in like an M shape almost, where, you know, maybe the centers aren't so high, but I don't know how else to describe it. So we then, here's why you need the outside piece, because we're going to add a little bit of shading to our moon just so it's not stark white, and I'm going to do that with the hickory smoke. It can be challenging to get the masking paper to stick just because the other distress ink is still wet. I just kind of hold mine in place because I'm not going to be doing this for very long. Know what I'm saying? But so, anywho, he tried to drill it out with another screw, which then got stuck. And then we had to go to the store and buy a screw extractor, which then just took off the top of the head of the nail. That was the secondary screw. I'm sorry, I keep saying nail. The secondary screw that was hanging out. So it took that top off. So now we're again back to, now there's two nail lengths, like two shafts with no heads that are stuck in this table. So he ends up getting the second one out pretty easily, but the first one is still in it. And so we take it outside and we're trying a couple of different things and basically come to the conclusion that we're just going to have to chip it out. We're going to have to chip out the wood around it until we can get the actual screw out, and then fill it. And that is what, well, I shouldn't say we, because I didn't do any of it. My wonderful husband did. So he sat out there and, like, with a mallet and the mini screwdriver, like, chipped the wood away around this just absolutely destroyed screw that kept collapsing. And so, like, he would have to, like, get out little pieces, parts at a time. Eventually, he was able to get the whole thing out. Thank you, Lord. And then we wood filled it. But I think because the hole is so deep, it's going to take, like, 2 days for that wood filler to set so that we can then sand it, stain it, and re-drill it. I know he was super upset. I totally get that, because I am also frequently super upset when I have to redo things like 2 and 3 times. I think everybody is. But I think we're finally there as far as being able to get it done and then hopefully get it delivered this coming weekend instead of yesterday. So yeah, just a long, that particular project is terribly long, but I'm super proud of him for sticking with it, because I am, like I said, not a whole lot of help at this stage. I'm busy growing a human, and so I can't really do too much of anything. Here, what you're watching is just me kind of building my scene here. I had previously done this kind of off camera just because it takes me so long to figure out where I want my things to go. And then I took a picture of it with my camera, so that way when I was putting it back together, I could just look at that picture to see where I wanted my things to go. As far as the sentiment, I did not stamp it first. First of all, there's no foam adhesive here. Like, it is built up because it's multiple dies on top of each other, but there's no foam. So I wasn't as concerned about stamping my sentiment afterward, but I was too nervous to stamp it first. Here, you can see my big enormous belly right there as I'm stamping. So I was too nervous to stamp it first because I was afraid that I was going to stamp it too low and not have enough room. So I ended up stamping it to say, so very grateful for you. No, very grateful for you, I think is what I went with. And then just kind of staggered that around the grateful, which is, right over the moon, and then the little blessed on the wagon. I think it ties in there super nicely. I'm going to go in with my white gel pen and then just kind of add some highlights and little dots and things to the things that are already there, just to give them a little bit more detail. I think this card is super cute. I think the dies are adorable. And I've seen what the things other people have made with them, including Nicole. And I think they're super, super sweet. So if you are a person who enjoys the dies, kind of building with your dies, these are adorable for fall. So here I'm just adding some shimmer to like the flowers and the pumpkins because I cannot stop myself. And then that's it. That's the whole card. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. I know it's a longer video. I will link the products that I used and the sale in the description below if you're interested in checking those out. And I will catch you guys on the next video. Bye.